Chair, allow me to thank the Speaker for allowing us time and space to debate this very important and yet tragic matter, which has attracted a lot of public interest regarding our deployed soldiers in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Chair, let us remind ourselves why South African Defence Force is in the DRC, as there has been a lot of debate around this issue. To remind ourselves, and I think my colleague has said it, one of the pillars of the South African foreign policy position is to contribute to the creation of peace and stability on the continent and the world. Our country's foreign policy position was adopted by the democratic government since 1994. And in support of this policy position, South Africa has participated in a number of these missions, at least 23 of them. Some of them led by United Nations, AU, and SADC. We've been to Lesotho, to Burundi, Ivory Coast, Ethiopia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, the Sudan, and Liberia, just to mention a few. House Chair and honorable members, when it comes to the DRC, I also want to remind this House that South Africa's first Commander-in-Chief, Rolihlahla Mandela, very early in our democratic championed peace-building conflict resolution. It is thus to make, it's no mistake that our SAS Utonukwa brought together the leaders of then Zaire, Mobutu Seseko, and the leader of the fighting forces, Laurent Kabila. And these talks ultimately saw the transition from Zaire to what is today known as the Democratic Republic of Congo. We dare not forget the inter-Congolese dialogue, which we hosted as a country in Sun City for many months. Women across the continent, especially those from conflict-ridden areas, also saw it fit to even have a framework of peace. Hence, 2 weeks back, under Women in Dialogue, they were here also, and some of the women came from these conflict areas. South Africa, Chair, is an integral part of the international community, particularly the African continent. We recognize that our own security, our prosperity and sustainability, and that of Africa, of the African continent, are intrinsically connected, and therefore we understand that our own national interest is linked to Africa's stability, unity, and peace. Thus, Africa, hence we are at the center of these peacekeeping forces. So the deployment of Summit DRC was appointed by an extraordinary SADC summit of heads of government, which was held in Windhoek on the 8th of May 2023, as a regional response to address the unstable and deteriorating security situation prevailing in the DRC. So the deployments of the Summit DRC is in accordance with the principles of collective self-defense and collective action outlined in the SADC Mutual Defense Pact of 2003. Meanwhile, the United Nations organization also has MINUSCO, which came into effect by July 2010 and was preceded by MINOC, which was there in 1999. The MINUSCO mandate, and I quote, it is to authorize to use all necessary means to carry out its mandate relating, amongst other things, to the protection of civilians, humanitarian and personnel support. So, Madam Speaker, let me come back to the incident of 2 weeks ago, where our troops came under attack on the 24th of January 2025. We were indeed taken up by the tragic news that our troops based in Sake, the eastern DRC, came under heavy attack by M23 rebels. In the weeks leading to the 23rd, fighting in that region had escalated, with the rebels group fiercely engaging with the Congolese armed forces. And the intensified fight of M23 made sure that key towns in the province of Kivu, like Masisi, Ngungu, Bidada, and Minova, and all the time the rebels were advancing towards Sake, where the Summit DRC main operating base is located, and this led to our own forces being enveloped. The M23 launched an all-out attack on Summit DRC main operation base, where South African, Malawian, and Tanzanian contingent, together with UNESCO and also the Congolese defense, were located. Heavy shelling of the base was experienced, and this was followed by ground attack aimed at our operational base. M23 attacks were in clear contravention of the Nairobi peace process and the ceasefire brokered by the Luanda process. Semi-DRC stood firm in defense of Sake for 3 days, with battling lasting up to 9 hours of continuous fighting without any pause. Semi-DRC managed to contain the situation to repel the attack. M23, with some of their elements, were started withdrawing from the town and M23 suffered heavy casualties as reported by United Nations of ensuing period. It is during this time that we as a country saw 9 casualties, 12 injuries, varying in different degrees. And following the exchange mortar bombs again between DRC and the armed forces of 23 rebels on the 27th of January now, near Goma Airport, where South African Defence Force is co-located with even the Congolese Defense Force, where we lost 3 members and some suffered serious injuries. And one of our soldier who had been killed, who had been hurt in Goma, succumbed to his injuries. As a result, leading us to 14, with one of our members being shot in Goma, bringing to 14. Of the people that have passed on, 7 come from Limpopo, 3 are from the Free State, 1 each from Eastern Cape, Northern Cape, and Northwest Province. And all the members will be raised to rest in full military honors for their sacrifice. And Chair, I must say, from the latest reports, yes, indeed, the delay is very disheartening. Currently, from the reports we're receiving, that they are still in Uganda, undergoing all the medical processes, and which we also are pressing very hard to get our deceased. We were hoping that we'll get them by today, but by the latest, we are told that Thursday they will be here. The South African National Defense members' ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty is a stark reminder of the dangers that are faced by young men and women in peacekeeping missions. Our soldiers are deployed to the eastern part of the DRC in North Kivu, a province that has been plagued by violence and instability for many years. And the primary threat in this region is as a result of M23, an illegal armed group that has been responsible for numerous attacks on both civilians and the DRC military forces. However, the presence of many other armed groups in the eastern DRC vying for control over its rich natural resources has led to widespread violence, displacement of civilians, and humanitarian crisis. South African National Defense Force, therefore, in the DRC, is part of UNESCO. I hear say South Africa, what we're not armed, we're part of UNESCO. We're not there in our own individual capacity as a country. On the one hand, and we are also part of semi-DRC, working together with other forces of the continent. As I conclude, Chair, I'd like to take the opportunity to express our condolences to the bereaved families and the entire South Africa, and wish speedy recovery to the injured. Furthermore, we continue to be committed to the safety and well-being of our remaining soldiers in Goma through the already announced measures by the Eastern African Committee and SADC Summit and the opening of lines of Goma. We are working hard to make sure that the challenges our members are facing, like low supplies of food, are being attended to, and definitely we do believe that in the next few days they'll be there. Chair, what has really also brought relief to the challenges that we're facing there, it's the resolutions that members have mentioned of the SADC and the Eastern African communities, who amongst others have called for the unconditional ceasefire, the provision of humanitarian assistance, the development of securitarization, and the immediate opening of Goma Airport, which we believe will bring lots of relief to the dire situation that we are confronted with. Thank you very much, Chair.